So I can really dig into it. Now I've got 114,000. I can dig into those in quite a bit of detail to really find the individuals that I want to. The next example I set up, again, similar type search string, is for a specific role. So again, I really want to talk to architects, production managers. Again, architects, again, I really want to talk to architects. So I put it in twice. But this is really depending on your industry or role, like if it's financial, it could be that the CFO, a director of finance, property management, is going to be a little different versus media. So depending on who your target base is, you can change the criteria. Again, I've got a ton. I just use this as a high-level search, but I can, again, filter down pretty granularly into specific company, geographic region, organization. So it's another, just a quick way of using Boolean search strings to get premium functionality without having to pay the premium membership. The next one I wanted to show you is with Twitter. So again, I think a lot of folks leverage LinkedIn to identify potential prospects. Twitter is definitely a mix of personal usage, and I'm starting to see a lot over the last several years, more and more professionals, executives, companies leveraging Twitter to promote new products, to engage with their customer base. So you can use the same methodology, Boolean search string, to filter or refine your Twitter feed. So an example I have here, again, I thought of myself in the technology world. I sell a CRM, for example, type technology. So I wanted to figure out on Twitter, like what kinds of feedback or questions are being asked around CRM. And again, you can change this up, but I wanted to search, the search string I have is really, the first is CRM, and then in inverted commas, I have anyone know, and then the language is English. And I also have a date range, which is the turn of the year. So from January 1st, 2016 on Twitter, I want to find anyone that's communicated on CRM and leverage or ask the question, anyone know? So essentially, anyone know of a CRM that does X? And you can really play around with this as much as possible, but some examples that you can come up with, for example, is anyone know about a CRM that allows you to forward someone's email and then create a new contact? So this could be an indicator. You can refine it by location if you wanted to as well. But it could be maybe an opportunity to reach out, engage, share your expertise, be that thought leader within your industry to provide information or follow up and uncover new opportunities. So again, it's a way to use a tool like Twitter and for sales prospecting or to identify potential leads or to really show your leadership within a specific industry.
Is there anything to help kind of figure out what structure you use when you type in a search? Is that one here?
Yeah, so that will be on the little tip sheet. So
it's on the same one as the LinkedIn.
Yeah, okay. So it's exactly the same search strings that you would use, like the and, or, if, like the parentheses, inverted commas. So both would translate to LinkedIn as well as Twitter. So that's another good question. So again, just a few basic ways without having to pay premium type premium type functionalities. You can dig into your contacts and what information is being shared on social networks. Let's go into the next one. So the next tool, it's a combination, it's a 2-for-1 almost. So it's a tool called Rapportive combined with a Google spreadsheet. So I've included on the Google, the Dropbox link, a link to the Google spreadsheet template, as well as the tool Rapportive. So really with this tip or technique, just in my own world and working with customers, I often get asked a lot of questions. How do I find direct email addresses for prospects or net new prospects that I want to reach out to without having to maybe purchase a lead list from maybe a marketing company or to subscribe to a large database, maybe like a Dun & Bradstreet or Hoover's, for example. So this is a tool that you can use. I would caveat it, it does take a little bit more time, but you can, between the combination of the spreadsheet as well as the tool Rapportive, get access to a direct email address. So I'll show you an example of someone that I was trying to identify recently and reach out to, but didn't have their email address. So this is the Google spreadsheet that you'll be able to have access to. So you'll have access to it and you'll be able to create a copy and save it into your own Google Docs. So it's all set out for you. The only thing that you need to change or update are the 4, or primarily 3 yellow boxes. Everything else should stay the same. So I just wanted to share an example of a gentleman that I wanted to find recently. His first name was Gary. His last name was Smith. Couldn't for the life of me find his email address anywhere. So all I really need to do with this is type in the first name, which is Gary, last name, which is Smith, and then the domain name. So what is their business? Essentially their website address. So for me, it's Sandler.com. So whenever I enter those search criteria, what happens on the right-hand side is I get a list of approximately, it's like 45 potential email addresses using various different forms. It could be Gary Smith at Sandler.com, could be Gary_Smith, could be Gary hyphen, Gary dot. So any kind of permutation out there, this will give you the majority of them that you could potentially use. So this is where the other tool, Rapportive, comes into play. So again, it's a Gmail plugin. So what I'll do now that I've got all of my email addresses, I'll just copy them. And then I want to go to my Gmail. So I've already downloaded the Rapportive tool in my Gmail. So all I need to do is paste all of those email addresses into my Gmail account. And I'll minimize it. So on the right-hand side, you'll see this is the Rapportive tool. So all I really need to do is open up these 44. And this is where it could be a little time-consuming. So if I just hover over the email addresses I came up with, and if you hit the right one, it will bring up the profile on the right-hand side. So when I look at the email address I hovered over, it's Gary.Smith at Sandler.com. So again, what the Rapportive tool has done, it's correlated that email address with a LinkedIn account. So this is an email address that is associated with a LinkedIn account, and it'll bring up my profile, as well as links to my Twitter, as well as my company website.
Now, do you have to be connected with these people?
No.
Okay.
No, you don't need to be connected. So this will, again, it's not guaranteed 100% of the time. It depends which email addresses may be associated, but for the most part, you'll be able to find a match pretty quickly.
So if you're trying to hunt somebody down.
Yeah. So definitely, if it does take, we went through a couple of steps. So it could be if you have large quantities to do, it may be a little too time consuming. But if you've tried several resources, you maybe haven't got that email address, it could be like that go-to tool to figure out, okay, which one might it be? But again, it's a pretty neat tool that you can use just to confirm or verify a potential email address. And again, you'll have access to that Google Doc as well. The only thing you need to change is the name and the domain name. So the next one, again, is along the same lines. It's finding direct email addresses for specific contacts or prospects. So this is another neat tool. It's called Clearbit Connect. Again, it's a Gmail integration. It works. And again, there's both paid as well as free features for this. So whenever you download it, you get access to 25 free email addresses a month. So with this tool, of course, if you wanted to pay a subscription, you get access to unlimited. But all you really need to do is click the little connect button and then find an email. And these are just some companies I was looking at. So if I wanted to click on Outbound Engine, for example, it will bring you up a list of contact names. So you can filter by searching for a specific person. But if you just click on a specific name, for example, it will pull up that individual as well as the email address. So it's a little bit of a quicker way, but you're limited by how many, if you have the free version, how many you can actually do on a monthly basis. But if you need a quick hit, it's a fairly good tool to get that direct contact information. So again, it's just a quick way to find those specific details. Again, that one is called Clearbit Connect. Integrates with Gmail, but you can just put in the domain name for that specific company, and it will bring up a host of contacts that you can reach out to. The next one is tied into LinkedIn. Again, really based on the free membership as well as the premium membership. So a feature that I like using is Who's Viewed My Profile. So you can always see notifications whenever you log into LinkedIn. It will tell you 6 folks have viewed your profile. And I always want to see who's been viewing my profile. Maybe they're potential prospects I've reached out to, or maybe customers I've reached out to. With the basic membership on LinkedIn, you're limited to how many folks you can see. You can only see the last 5 people. With the premium, you can see unlimited up till the last 90 days. But with this tool, Profile Views, you can see, even if you have the basic or premium membership, you can see everyone that's viewed your LinkedIn profile. So it's a Chrome extension. So I like it because, like, for when I try and identify who's viewed my profile, I almost use it as a guerrilla type prospecting. So I want to figure out why were they viewing my profile. Maybe they found something of interest. So I always want to reach out with a note to maybe connect. If they fit my customer profile, or they're maybe a contact that I wanted to engage with, I'd say, like, thank you so much for visiting my profile. Hope you were able to find some value. I'd love the opportunity to maybe reach out, make a connection on LinkedIn, and see how we can complement each other's networks. So I'd always be proactive in reaching out. But in order to find those, the Profile Views extension, again, is for Chrome. It's just a little yellow button in the top. And you just click on it, and it'll bring you up the list of folks that has viewed your profile. So even if you've got basic membership for LinkedIn or the premium, you can see the entire history of folks that have been viewing your profile. So again, it's just a neat way to have that premium type functionality without having to pay that additional cost, and really see, are there any potential leads or prospects that I could reach out to, or maybe mentors I could reach out to add value to my network, or perhaps I could add value as well. Has anyone maybe leveraged that feature in the past? Like, does everyone look at if you use LinkedIn, the Profile Views? So normally my first port of call, I'm like, oh, I got 10 people viewing my profile. Who was it? Like a little surprise. So hopefully it's another way to give you more information, to hopefully be as relevant as possible whenever you are reaching out, or to identify new folks within your network. The next one I wanted to show, so the next tools are really geared towards sales intelligence. So now going through the flow of the sales process, we started with hiring, went through CRM, a sales acceleration email automation tool. Then we went into identifying contact information, email addresses for the folks we want to reach out to. So the next step is now more sales intelligence. So now we've identified these folks who got their contact information. How do we engage with them? So how do we find sources of information to separate ourselves from the competition? So whenever we do reach out via email, voicemail, social media, how can we ensure that our message is contextual and is providing value to that specific individual? So the next set of tools are really geared towards sales intelligence. So how can we figure out and find information as quickly as possible to add value or be that insight thought leader? So this first tool is one of my favorites. I came across it a few months ago. It's called Crystal Knows, crystalknows.com. So really what it is, it's a plugin for your LinkedIn. And I'm a big believer in, like, for me, selling is human. Like, everyone sells on a daily basis. You may not be a designated sales professional, but we all network. We all make friends at school, university, in the workplace. We're all selling to some extent. And it's just, for me, just really communication. communicating with empathy. And this is what this tool will hopefully help out with, is how can we communicate with empathy or from an emotional intelligence standpoint with our customers, prospects, or business professionals. I don't know if anyone's familiar with like DISC behavioral assessment or Myers-Briggs type indicator. So very similar in nature. So you would maybe do an online assessment to determine your preferred communication style, how you like to be communicated with, how you share information. So DISC is very similar to like a Myers-Briggs type indicator. So Crystal Knows leverages that behavioral assessment to provide you profiles of anyone on LinkedIn and tips on how to communicate as effectively as possible with them. So what it does, it pulls information from social media channels. So whatever type of public content is out there for that individual, say it's for me example, whatever articles, updates I've shared on LinkedIn or Twitter, it will profile the language I've used to come up with a DISC behavioral assessment for me based on the tone, how long a communication is, what types of information I maybe like or share. So I'll show you an example, and it embeds within LinkedIn as well as your Gmail. It's pretty neat. I really like it. So you can access it through via a main website, so crystalknows.com, to get profiles. So I just pulled up my own, but I'll actually show you in motion for like a real LinkedIn profile. So this is a gentleman that I was reaching out to for the first time, and just in advance I wanted to kind of get a feel for what type of personality, how they like to communicate, because I'm a big believer if you can mirror match that personality, people typically like to work or communicate with people like themselves. So how can I maybe not change my personality totally, but maybe refine my approach or how I communicate information? So I went here. So it integrates within your LinkedIn. So right off the bat, I can see the DISC profile for that individual based on the information shared out there. Again, it's just all public content. So you got to take it with a pinch of salt. So that person hasn't maybe shared content for 5 years. I don't know how reliable the information might be, but if they're actively sharing, it's probably, again, not going to be 100%, but it'll give you a really good idea on how you should probably communicate. You can also see how similar you are to that individual. So I'm 85% similar, so I maybe don't have to alter my approach too much. So I can hopefully be myself as much as possible. It gives you a brief overview, but where the cool stuff is, so it gives you more information about their profile. It'll tell you like keywords, phrases to maybe use. It'll tell you like when speaking, like how to maybe approach that conversation when emailing, when working, when selling too. So it really goes into a lot of detail. The next step is like how to maybe establish or build that relationship. So it compares you, so when communicating, how they maybe react in groups, maybe within situations of conflict, for example. And it also gives you, if you're sending an email, it gives you email templates that you can use based on this profile, which is pretty neat. Again, you got to probably customize it based on your industry, your world, the type of message you're trying to communicate, but it may give you a starting point. So if I wanted to ask for a raise, for example, it'll give you an idea for an employee how to ask for a raise. But there's a whole bunch of different examples you could see, like right down at the bottom, it's maybe a sales meeting follow-up or to set a meeting. So it'll give you specific templates that you can use. The other cool aspect is in Gmail. So let me just bring up a quick example. So if you're actually typing an email, I'll use myself as an example. So if I just put in my own email address, so what it's going to do, you'll see a couple of notifications at the bottom. So the green button says be brief. So for me, based on my personality and how I consume email messages, I don't like big essays. I like maybe bulleted points, like short, concise emails. I just want to look at them, maybe on my smartphone, and go, okay, cool. This is what this individual needs. This is what we're trying to accomplish on a meeting. So right off the bat, it's saying be brief. But if sometimes I'm very relational and maybe a little use too many words in my communication. So if I were to be me in how I communicate verbally, I would be like, hi there, hope all is well, and you have. So right down here, the green changes to one change. So I'm probably putting, it's told me to be brief. I'm not obviously being brief. I'm using a lot of words. So if I click on this, so to get a response from Gary, make your invitation 1 or 2 sentences. And then a little bit down here, it says, leave out the friendly but unnecessary hope all is well. So again, it's up to you if you want to take that advice, that information. But if it's someone new you're reaching out to, maybe if it's a C-level executive or maybe a founder, investor, VC type company, it may give you a leg up on other folks reaching out if you can communicate how that person likes to receive information. So it's one of my favorite tools. It's pretty powerful. It's kind of fun.
So are you using this tool when you send the email?
Yeah, or even just preparing for conversations. Like I would do, maybe pull up, usually if I meet with someone before a meeting, I would pull up their LinkedIn profile, and it'll give me like a short overview of like how they like to communicate.
So does this take information from their LinkedIn profile, or is, like, if you're sending a Gmail, is it just connecting to their G+ account?
It's a mixture, so it would be like a LinkedIn, or it could be Twitter or Facebook. So anything public, nothing private, but anything that's out there, kind of public, it will take into account. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but it'll hopefully give you a good idea on how to reach out. It's one of my favorites. The next one is a tool called Charlie App. So if you've got a meeting, you're limited on time to prepare for that meeting, you haven't met that person before, Charlie App could be a tool to give you a one-pager on an individual based on their company, maybe if they're mentions in a news article, recognition awards that they've got, or just their company as a whole. So I'll show you an example. This is super quick. So again, I just use myself. So again, all you need is an email address. So if you type in the email address into Charlie App, it will give you just a wealth of information. It'll pull up past history. Have I communicated with Gary by email in the past? If so, it'll pull up those emails for me. Have I had a meeting in the past? It will pull up those calendar invites, where they work, like any big moments, like has Gary been mentioned in the news? So it'll give you links to those news articles, interests and hobbies, like similar connections, for example, on Twitter, like what was my latest tweet? So I'm definitely looking forward to a great event at Tech Ranch on August 10th. I'm going to share and discuss 20 sales tools and technologies. So past work experiences also give you, like for example, Oracle stock information, news articles, my current company, Sandler, competition. So it gives you in a short, just by typing in an email address, we'll pull a wealth of information. So if you're short in time and you need it to prepare fairly quick, this could be a tool to help you out. So again, it's a tool called Charlie App. The next couple tools are very similar. Datanyze, as well as HG Focus. So again, how I use these tools specifically may be relevant to folks in the room or online that sell technology, be it hardware or software, for example. So these tools, like both Datanyze as well as HG Focus, they're plugins for Chrome, but what they do, they track technology that's in use on a customer's or an organization's website, for example. So it could be a good way to find complementary technologies, or maybe if a customer organization is using a competitive type technology. So what you do is you just click on the company that you're searching for, their homepage, and you click on the little icon. So this one is Datanyze. So what you'll see on the right-hand side, a little dashboard pop up, and a bunch of technologies from content management to analytics, tracking, just a whole bunch. And you'll see a little eye icon. So what that eye icon means is the tool has detected that this technology is in use on that website. So again, it could be an indicator when you're preparing for a meeting. Gosh, I want to kind of find out, like maybe in my last meeting, I wasn't able to find out what they are using for content management hardware, maybe a certain software. So this could give you an idea in preparation, so you can go in maybe a little bit more prepared and have a more impactful conversation. So just really cool if you really work well or play well with another technology and you see that they're using it, you can bring that up. Oh, I see you guys are using HubSpot. I'm not sure if you're aware, we actually integrate really well with that, and we can take that functionality to the next level. Not sure if you've thought about that, or so again, it'll hopefully help you be as relevant as possible with that specific customer. And again, HG Focus is exactly the same. It will give you that view or snapshot of a certain company and what technologies they're using. The next tool I wanted to show, we're almost done our tools, is one called Owler. So again, very similar to like a Charlie app, for example. You can search by company. It's like a Google, I don't know if anyone's used Google Alerts before. It's like a Google Alerts on steroids. So you can put in company names to track whenever they're mentioned in the news, or maybe if an executive has came up in the news, and it'll give you a curated dashboard of all of those companies, latest news articles, research. So that's primarily what you're seeing here. Some of the companies I follow, it will give you some of the recent, when they're mentioned in the news, if it's an acquisition, maybe a news article, maybe earnings call. But the other cool thing you can see is like latest alerts. So within North America, on the left-hand side, you can see you can pull up any company that's received funding and the source of that funding. You can see anyone that's been acquired or who's made an acquisition. And you can also see any leadership changes. So if anyone's got promoted to maybe a CFO, CEO type title, this will pull that information up. So again, it will give you a lot of powerful information that you can prepare for a meeting, or maybe prepare your prospecting database and who to follow up with. It'll hopefully make that search a little smaller, refine it to those most applicable options. So again, another great tool. Again, Demograph, a very similar tool. Again, it's a LinkedIn, or sorry, a Google Chrome plugin. Again, a similar concept. You just type in the domain name. I use National Instruments for an example, and it'll bring up a full snapshot of that company. So key executives, links to their social, direct, or sorry, primary phone numbers, a company summary. So again, if you're on the move, you have limited time to prepare, this could be a good tool to leverage just to find a little bit of background information or information you can use in that conversation. So again, very similar to Owler. This tool, it's called Demograph. The last tool I'll show is one called Cold Turkey. I don't know if anyone's been in this situation. I know I have a lot, even though I've been selling for many years. In your calendar, it's Wednesday morning, 9 to 10 is blocked off for cold calling. Whew. Yeah, cold calling. Not my most favorite activity. I got to do it. It's a means to an end. But I know I've got caught off track. It's like, gosh, maybe I need to do a little bit more research before I reach out to these folks. Yeah, I'm not gonna make my cold calls, but I want to be credible. Let me just do a little bit more due diligence. So I'll go, I'll research, pull some more information. Before I know it, it's like, oh gosh, 10. Oh, my cold calling is done. I'll do that tomorrow. I love soccer, so I find myself often looking at the soccer websites a little bit too much than I should, which takes me away from cold calling. So Cold Turkey is a really neat productivity tool where you can set restrictions on which websites you access at specific times, which applications you access at specific times. So if you find yourself maybe getting distracted from your core business activity and you've identified the cause, for me as, say, NBC Soccer, so I'd say between 9 and 10 every Wednesday morning, I can't access NBC Soccer because I should be making my cold calling. Or I often have my laptop on during vacation in the evenings, much to my daughter and wife's dismay. They say, why are you working so much? So you can actually restrict access to your laptop between certain times. I haven't done that. I haven't got to that point, but it's an option. So again, it's just a kind of a fun tool to help you with productivity. So that's that was the cold turkey tool. So again, it can temporarily block websites, applications, or lock yourself out of your computer for periods of time. So it's just a fun way to help out and help the focus on core activities. So now for just the last few minutes, I just wanted to focus on a few sales techniques versus tools or technologies. So again, I know we went through the tools and technologies fairly quick, but please definitely check them out on the Dropbox to Word document. But I just wanted to share a few quick sales techniques, hopefully to help out with prospecting or customer conversations. One of my most important rules is 70-30 rule. Has anyone heard of that before? Familiar? 70-30? No. It's for me, it really ties into one of my sales mantras. It's prospect who's listening is no prospect at all. So sometimes I find myself maybe getting excited about a topic, and it's me doing all of the talking, the sharing, and the customer or prospect isn't really interacting in that conversation or sharing information. I just get a lot of affirmations. Yep. Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I get off that point, I'm like, wow, that was great. I talked so much. It's not actually great. It should be the flip side. So the customer or the prospect should be doing at least 70% of the talking or leading the conversation or sharing information, and you, as that business professional, sales professional, doing 25-30%. So really our job is to listen and pull information versus push. We're going to definitely share our features and benefits, but we want to first learn about challenges, goals from that customer, and then specifically tie our features and benefits to those. So again, it's just super quick. It's just listen more versus pull more information versus push. And hopefully that will make cold calling a lot less stressful. If you're just asking open-ended questions, you're not really talking a lot, just like learning about a business and organization. So definitely pull versus push. We talked a lot about email and email tools today. So I wanted to just share 3 steps that I use to writing an effective email. It's a question I get asked a lot in sales trainings, coachings. Like, how do I increase my chances of getting a response via email? So the first step is the opening. Again, it's fairly straightforward. Like, how do you hook someone's attention? What's going to make your email stand out versus the 10 other emails from Gary Smith and the competition? Most important, what's in it for them? Like, what value are we offering to that individual? And why would they want to respond to us? So not so much sharing, again, our features and benefits, but putting yourself in their shoes. What's important to them? What challenges are they going through? And how can we maybe tie our product, services, solutions into that? So how can we correlate or relate to them as much as possible? Then the last is really the ask. I see too often a lack of a call to action on emails. So what is a clear, simple next step? What am I proposing as a result of sending this email? It could be a short conversation, short discovery call, a follow-up, whatever that is. There should be a clear, simple call to action. Again, tied into email, anyone been in a situation where you find yourself maybe following up a little too often? Hey, this is Gary. I wanted to check in, follow up on our last conversation, see if you had any questions. Just please reach out, let me know. I'll be happy to help. Following week, hey, this is Gary. I know I checked in. Just want to follow up, see maybe anything changed since our last conversation. Can I help any further, provide any additional info? So how can we maybe avoid that cycle of constant follow-up without maybe getting a response? So this is, again, not guaranteed to work. Wish it was, it'd be very rich. But again, hopefully will increase your chances of getting a response. And it's really, I'm a big believer in sales, I want to get a yes. I want to progress an opportunity, but just as much I want to get a no. How can I not only get a yes, but how can I get a no as quickly as possible? Yeah. How can I really go after a no and have, I guess, my own pipeline prioritized as much as possible? So this is a tool that you could use. If you find yourself, maybe you have sent a few emails, left a few voicemails, haven't heard back, truly go for no and just being honest. Hey, this is Gary. I know I've left a few voicemails over the last few weeks. It seems like things have changed in your business, and this is no longer a priority for you and your team to move forward with. If that's the case, that's totally okay. If you could please let me know, or if this is still something that is of interest, please let me know what might be a good next step. Look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much, Gary. my telephone number. So again, I want to give the opportunity for that customer or prospect to say no, because a lot of times folks don't maybe feel as comfortable saying no, or they want to maintain leverage in the sales process so they can always call back and get information. So I just want to put it out there, but for me, from a mindset standpoint, if I've left that message, I can somewhat move on. I'm not thinking, gosh, are they going to call back this week or next week? If they don't call back, then it's probably not an opportunity for this point in time. Not great, but at least I know. The last couple, handling objections, for me is just an opportunity to gain clarity. If I were to say something is too expensive, Maria was to say it's too expensive, Adrian was to say it's too expensive, on the surface we're all saying the same things, but typically we're coming from different experiences or different perceptions. For me, $1,000 might be too expensive. For Maria, $5,000 might be too expensive. For Adrian, it could be $10,000. Or we could have evaluated a technology similar before and found out it wasn't a good fit. So for me, a good way to follow up is just with another question. So I want to listen to that statement, objection, that roadblock. I want to acknowledge it, but I want to follow up with a question to gain a little bit more clarity and hopefully avoid myself getting boxed in to a certain situation. So if I got that response, Gary, you know what, it's just too expensive. Oh, that's fair. Like we're maybe not the most cost-effective solution in the marketplace. It seems like you've maybe explored similar solutions in the past. Oh, tell me more about that. Like which specific solutions? I just want to learn a little bit more. So again, a good way to respond is often with a question just to get clarity. Again, a structure for building rapport. Again, I won't go through all of this. Again, I'm a big believer in process frameworks. So if I'm starting a conversation for the first time, I focus on 4 key areas. It's the individual, that customer, that prospect. I want to learn a little bit more about them, their role, when they joined the company, what they do in their role. Then I move on to the company. So it's where does the company sit in the marketplace right now? Any product developments that are coming down the pipeline? What are their specific goals? Then I go into the local marketplace, what they're seeing, any trends, best practices. Then I go to the next, I guess the more macro level, the industry. What are they seeing there? So I use that as my little framework to start building rapport, but learning information at the same time. It's like a concentric circle. You always have, every circle has the same center, which is always the prospect. It just revolves around it. And for me, before I go on to my bonus tool is one of my favorite questions and most important, again, really going for no. People and customers typically make a purchase based on the following scenario. Whenever we have a product or service, we're going to be able to do X, which means our organization is going to be able to benefit by X. And then ultimately, we're going to measure return on that investment through dollars, increased customers, reduce customer acquisition costs, whatever that is. And for me, this is the most important area. How do they quantify that value, or how are they going to quantify that value? So if you're in a situation, for me, it's truly going for a no. I'm really excited to be working together and working towards signing our contracts by end of August. I'm just curious, if you're not able to move forward by end of August, what does that mean for you and your business? So I want them to reaffirm, this is what happens if we don't move forward, or if the response is, yeah, if we're not able to get this signed off, we'll probably review it next quarter. That's the response, then I need to start, they maybe don't fully realize the value of the solution and buying it now. So I always truly go for a no. What happens if you don't move forward? And depending on the response, it can be pretty eye-opening. My final tool are 2 tools. I think for me, cold calling is definitely not dead. I think the cold is dead. Calling is very much still alive. I love coffee. That's my fuel. Probably too much, but there's so much technology out there today. But for me, nothing beats the phone and a pot of coffee. So those are my 2 favorite tools. So again, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you to TechRanch for allowing me to present. I know I tried to cram a lot in a short space of time. I really appreciate your participation and insights. And don't hesitate reaching out. You've got my contact information here. Let me know. I love anything sales related. Happy to brainstorm or bounce ideas off of each other. But thank you so much for your time today, and hope you have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you.